Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dreamleapers with Harriette Cole. It is summer. It is hot. It is all the things that summer can be. I absolutely love summer because I get to go to my happy place, which is at the beach. And I love summer fashion because it's light and cool and fabulous. So we are talking fashion, we're talking style, and we're talking with Michele Grant, who has written a fantastic book called The Power Dressers, A Woman's Guide to Professional Style. So let me tell you a bit about her. She is a seasoned executive business consultant. She's written this, it's just off the press, this book, with more than 20 years of experience delivering successful results for Fortune 500 firms across diverse sectors. Michele's expertise in program leadership and value creation has benefited clients such as Bertelsmann, Coach, AT&T, subsidiaries, Viacom, CBS, Emblem Health, Bank of America, and Moody's. With a background in computer science and executive business development leadership, Michele offers a fresh approach to professional styling. Leveraging her perspective from the business world and her passion, she brings the gap between the boardroom and the dressing room, empowering women to approach their professional image with intention and intelligence. The Power Dressers book offers more than just fashion advice. It is a comprehensive guide to crafting a career and persona that reflects both strength and sophistication. So we are thrilled to welcome Michele Grant, who's going to tell us all about how to be a power dresser. Welcome, Michele.
Thank you so much for having me today, Harriet. It's been, a wonderful experience launching the Power Dressers, and it indeed is a guide for women, all women, on how you can develop your expert and unique professional style.
And this, Michele, is a time for women like none other. We are living in a moment that is historic. We have at the White House currently a Black woman who is vice president, who has become the candidate for the Democratic Party for president. And I'm starting with her because, she's the international focus for so many people, regardless of your politics. As a woman leader, people are looking at Kamala Harris and looking at how she dresses. And they've been looking at that for a while, but now that she's in this different spotlight, they're looking very closely. And I remember, I don't know whether you remember this or not, just based upon your moment in time, but when Hillary Clinton was running for president, she was so harshly scrutinized for her style, what she wore, what it meant. She was always wearing pantsuits. Well, why is she wearing, Kamala Harris wears pantsuits a lot as well. This notion of being a power dresser at the highest level, let's start there. What does that mean? And what is the impact of what Kamala Harris is wearing on the future?
Oh, it's such a great place to start. And the truth of the matter is that we develop a mindset or a perception with those that we're interacting with based on our appearance within seconds of them observing us. And so this scrutiny is something that happens inherently in any environment that we're in. And what Kamala has done is she set the pace from the very beginning of her career when she got to a very public stage. And I think what we're seeing now is the consistency of that, okay? And what we automatically glean from her attire and how she shows up is very important in how we interact and perceive her to be, and what she communicates in her power dressing, because yes, she is consistent in her power dressing, is that she is trustworthy, she's serious about the value that she brings, and she is confident in her expertise and how she brings her expertise to bear in every environment. And so without even hearing her talk, without us having close proximity to her, or even working with her personally, we already have an impression. We already have an impression of what she shares and what she can provide and who she is. And so that is key and the first step in understanding why this is so important.
Yeah, I mean, I think we see her. I think a fine line for women in power, is how much of our femininity do we show?
Mhm.
How, I remember when I was fashion editor at Essence Magazine in the early 90s, early to mid 90s. And that
Mhm.
was a time when we were back to a very serious shoulder pad. There was a lot of men's tailoring going on. Donna Karan was like the queen of the business suit for women. And there was often a chalk stripe that there was a feminine shape, but it was cut, it was very chiseled. And I look at Kamala Harris and see something very similar now. She's covered, strong, and feminine at the same time. She wears a lot of subdued colors, but every now and then you get a little color in there.
You do, yes.
For a woman at a very high level, what do you say about color, about neckline? How much can be revealed? Where do you draw the line? I think this is a hard question for a lot of women.
Absolutely. The number one aspect to this that you started out with is the fit of her suits. And in the very beginning of my book, I talk about body types and why that is so important in getting the right fit, because it does give a sense of clean lines and astute behavior and thought process. And so we want to incorporate the right fit of our attire, whether it's a suit, a power dress. Either way, you really want to start with getting the right fit. When it comes to color, I have an entire chapter on the psychology and impact of color in your environment and why. It's because it evokes emotions, strong emotions from those who are interacting with you. And so if you wear a very vibrant color, there is energy, there are emotions that are going to be exuded because of that. You're right, Kamala does wear very neutral. She does wear a pop of color here and there, but she has a really great way of harmonizing these colors. And I go into that in depth because it's not necessarily about just sticking with neutrals or getting a palette that you're comfortable with, because you want to experiment. It's making sure that they're harmonious, right? And they're giving a sense of calm, and they're giving a sense of your expertise and what you bring to the table, and not distracting the audience from what you are going to share with them and what you are going to communicate. And so I really find that, and I've observed her as well for many years, and her harmonious approach to her attire, her suits are fantastic. And there is definitely much to be said around, um, your lines, your how you cover up, and there's not a one stop shop or only one way of doing this. You don't always have to be covered all the way up to the neckline. You do want to have some variety there, but you also do not want to distract away from what you're going to be communicating and sharing. And so I go back to making sure that you stand out, of course, that you've gained the attention that you're looking for. And you also are confident in what you're wearing. And you can tell that she is extremely confident when she wears certain looks. And that is kind of her go-to, how should I say, attire. You'll see changes here and there, but she's very confident in that unique style that she's developed.
Sounds good. Now you mentioned color, and in your book, you're right. There's a whole section, whole chapter talking about color and the impact that it has. And I love you're telling stories about yourself as well as others, the impact of color. And so one of the colors that we know is a power color and that you can use in different ways is red. So let's talk. I want to talk about a few colors, but let's start with the color red. When does red work in a professional woman's attire? What does it say, and how can we use it effectively in the way that we dress?
Oh, red is going to give you that power feeling when you're in a networking environment that says, I am approachable, I am vibrant, I am energetic, and I am interested in what we're doing today. This is something that I was excited about when I woke up this morning, and I'm communicating that now that I'm in this space. Red also gives a sense of confidence, but in a more I'm okay with eyes on me today. And so we want to do that in some circumstances, right? And I think networking conferences, where you're just in a room or a sea of many people, it's also a great way to stand out and bring that energy that we really want in events like that.
And I love that, because guess what? If you wear red, you have to be ready to be seen and to interact with other people, right? You are not a wallflower if you're wearing red. There's absolutely not going to happen that. And so when when could it be too much? For example, if you're going to a job interview, is red a good color to wear, or could it be a little bit too much in that situation?
It can be a bit much. As I mentioned before, it's great when you're in a room of many people. When you're one on one or one to maybe of less than 10 people, it might be overpowering. You most likely will not have others wearing that color in that environment. And so the contrast to and I always talk about this, read the room, know where you're going, know who you're going to be interacting with. And typically on an interview, whether it be one on one or a panel interview, you're not going to have others really leaning in on red or very bright colors. And so it will make you stand out, but not in the way that you probably intend for that opportunity. And again, you don't want everyone to kind of segue into what you're wearing and be distracted by that instead of what it is that you have to share. And I call them crucial moments or high stakes conversations where it's intentional at that moment to not distract away from the goal that you're looking to achieve.
I remember, Michelle, when I was starting my career, I started very like interested in fashion. When I was young, I was a model. I was very, very much immersed in fashion. And when I had my interview for my first jobs in New York, two job interviews, both I was hoping would be in the fashion editorial space. And I remember bringing two outfits with me. I was staying with a friend who was a year older than me, who was already working in fashion media. And I showed her my outfits. The one was straight up fashion girl, fashion fabulous. And
Mhm.
one was like a business suit, a dark jacket, white blouse. And I didn't want to wear that one. But I brought that because I heard my mother in my voice in my ear going, "Girl, you better bring something conservative." And when I showed my friend, she said, "You must wear the conservative one. This is still business. Yes, you are interested in fashion, but fashion is a business. You want to be taken seriously for this job. And so you need to dress in a professional way, not in a flashy fashion way that could be fine for another kind of environment, but not for a job interview."
Mhm.
So a lot of people who are listeners, viewers of Dreamleapers are people who are in transition, who are looking to get to that next step. And so I'm going to guess that a lot of people who are tuned in now could be in that job interview mode. Can you describe both color, but also, what could be some good looks that would be that could give some personal touch, but also would be considered safe and appropriate for job interviews?
This is really a wonderful question because in my book, I talk about finding that signature style. And so, yes, in job interviews, you're going to want to lean more towards a conservative look, from your colors all the way to the design of the suit, whether you want to go solid colors or pinstripe. You want it to be conservative. And even if you're going to interview in a creative environment, I do talk through understanding the culture of the company and who you will be working with, because it's important to communicate the understanding of that. So if you know that the company has a brand color that they lean in pretty heavily on, you can maybe incorporate that brand color in a camisole or even a corsage like I am wearing today, just to give an understanding and communicate your dynamism, how you understand the company and who you're going to be working for, and the depth that you are using intentionally to show up for this interview. There is aspects to this that, you know, is going to be important: getting a tailor, having a tailor, making sure the suit fits very well, and that you are
You
comfortable.
say suit. Let me interrupt and ask, because
Yes.
we live in a very casual business world these days.
Uh,
Should you wear a suit?
I do think that wearing a suit is going to be the best way to go if you're just kind of starting out and you're getting a handle on what is my go-to. But then you can also look at, what does that mean for women? It can be a dress with a blazer. It can be a skirt with a blazer. It can be a pants with a blazer. So there is variety in that. And you want to be able to mix it up as you understand, again, the culture of the industry that you're in, as well as the company that you will be interviewing with.
I think this is so important because, you know, years ago, there was something that was instituted that we called casual Fridays, right? In corporate
Mhm.
America. It's been a long time now. But since that happened, the the office environment has become more and more casual. With COVID and the pandemic and people working from home, then suddenly it was just your upper body that mattered at all, right? Much like
Yes,
how we are today.
we
But
are.
the reality is, a lot of people go to work. And I have discovered, Michele, in coaching a number of young people who are recent college graduates, people who are just starting out in their careers, much like what happened for me, but even more, they have no idea what to wear. Okay, let's say you get the job, and then what? And I'll give you an example, because I like having examples to give a sense of the do's and don'ts. But before we do this, let me remind everybody, you may have just tuned in. This is Dreamleapers with Harriette Cole. We are talking fashion, we're talking style, and we're talking with Michele Grant, who's written this book, The Power Dressers: A Woman's Guide to Professional Style. And I love how practical this book is. So, Michele, when I'll give you an example, and then have you provide feedback to this. I was on a project with some women recently, new professionals. They just 1 or 2 years in the professional world, and they started during the pandemic. And we all went to a conference at one point, and all the team members. Two of the younger women were dressed inappropriately at this gathering, and
Mhm.
several of the more seasoned women, myself included, were like, "Ooh, we didn't think to say no midriffs at the business lunch.
Mhm.
No plunging to the belly button dresses at the evening event." It didn't occur to us because it didn't occur to us. It wasn't, like, it was just for all of us. For them, they didn't realize that's pushing the boundaries. For those who've been professionals for a long time, it didn't occur to us to say, "Oh, now these are trends in for young people, but maybe that's good for the club, but not for the business function." So for people who are just starting out, who may not know, especially if you are coming from like a college environment, or just, you're at home, you're hanging with your friends in a very casual, maybe sometimes sexy way. How do you transition to professional when maybe that isn't part of your purview?
Well, the very first thing I'm going to recommend is pick up your copy of The Power Dressers if you're now getting started. And the idea there is really to say, I am going to now do my research and curate what I want to present, not only for today and what I'm going into, but where I want to be in 5 years. Really taking a moment and saying, before I step out there, where do I want to be and how can I start incorporating that into my attire today? You're going to be most likely, if you're virtual, because there are quite a few areas where people are now virtual. They haven't even met their teams in person for years since the pandemic. And so we have to adapt to that. That is where the culture is going. There are aspects to business culture that will continue to move and evolve, and we want to be at the pulse of that. And what, work might look very different in another 5 to 10 years. So we're embracing it, and we're also saying, how does this apply in where you're going to be working, how you're going to be working, who you're going to be working with. And I am going to take the time to do the research that I need to do to develop a style and a look that is appropriate for the environment that I will be in. So this guide really walks you through all of that to develop that personal and unique style. And why I say authenticity is so important, we're not trying to provide a cookie cutter approach to this and to dressing in your attire. You really want to differentiate yourself, right? Just as you do in your expertise developing where you're going to be in your career, you're using dressing and attire to have to communicate your value and then differentiate yourself from others and what you provide and what you bring. There are industries where you might not have the same range as others. If you're in healthcare, there will be opportunities where you will not be in your uniform attire. And, for those networking opportunities, you want to be sure that you are in line with your environment, what people typically wear to those. Just because you're new to it, we have the internet now. There is research that you can do to find out what the attire typically looks like in these settings. And then how do you add your flavor to that? How do you bring your unique approach to it? And there's many aspects to that that you can use and utilize to still remain appropriate, but also stand out, because we do want to have that authentic approach to how our appearance and how we show up.
I think about when I was growing up, my father and mother taught us, but my father, when it came to suits, you only need one, but it needs to be a good suit, good quality. If you can afford to have more, great. But like he says, don't buy cheap clothes. Don't buy cheap shoes. They can be affordable. They can be on sale, but they should be of good quality. And he was very strict about this because he wanted us to understand value. And, we live in fast fashion culture, which there are lots of things that are not good about fast fashion, but among them, just the poor quality often of things that are made differently. But I want to talk about how someone can build an effective wardrobe affordably while still having quality. How do you recommend that one can build a wardrobe? And you talk in your book about mixing and matching and the kinds of things you can do so that you're strategic with the items that you have. So what would comprise a solid working woman's wardrobe that could be mixing and matching and therefore can be built over time and can be something they can afford?
Absolutely. And I do have an entire chapter on this in discussing sustainability and how you can take an eco-conscious approach to your attire. Quality is so important. We, at times, we can look at trends and see that, there's opportunities to purchase items online or, in different areas. And then when you receive it, the quality is not up to par and it doesn't last. And so because we're looking for a consistent approach to how we show up and, we're investing our hard-earned dollars, we want to purchase quality items. There is also advice that I provide around maintaining these clothes and your items, from your handbags to your shoes, ensuring that you really get the value and longevity of the investment that you've made. And the other aspect to this, just to augment your wardrobe, that I always recommend, is to look into rental agencies. Now, this is a whole new added experience to dressing, and what women have available to them to really augment their wardrobes. And that is something you can look into as well, to bring these pieces together and maybe give you an opportunity to kind of experiment in an area that you don't want to fully commit into that style or look, but rental gives you the opportunity to do that and really start testing the waters and what that would look like for you. From when you talk about capsule wardrobes, you want to really say, okay, I know what I'm going to be doing 70% of the time. These are the items that work best for not only what I do, but my lifestyle. I talk about being practical. What does your commute look like? How do you get to work? Your bags should be, take that into consideration. You're
Absolutely.
investing in, and not be in a situation where you really can't function on a daily basis with that type of bag or shoes. Remain practical, but ensure that your items fit into the look that you're looking to exude and that you've put together. And so there are many options around building a capsule wardrobe that I recommend. And of course, if you're having challenges with doing that, you can always look to hire a consultant, a stylist. I've done that in the past. I am my own stylist, but I do recommend looking for one, and also maybe taking uh, recommendations from others in your field that you've seen, watching them, how they dress, and building a capsule wardrobe around what you're seeing them, and where you aspire to be, how you see them show up, and building a capsule wardrobe based on that.
I love the idea of working with a stylist. Sometimes that can be very helpful. And for people who don't know where they can find one, what's really wonderful is that many department stores have stylists, and you don't even have to pay an extra fee. That throughout the country, there are department stores who have their personal styling departments. You make an appointment, they will look at you, they'll take your measurements, talk to you about your work and where you go and how you spend your time, and then go in that store and pick things for you to try on. They will be your eyes and let you know if it fits or what needs to happen differently. Of course, you also can hire an independent stylist, but a good way to start, if you've never worked with one, is to work with someone in a department store to help you figure out, what works for you, and have professional eyes looking at you, because you may not have that same glance, that same gaze that someone who knows fashion does.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah. I want to talk a bit more about fit, because you mentioned that in the beginning, and it's very important, as you have described. I'm going to give you another example for me. So I'm the middle of three girls. We're every size. My mother is petite, and my younger sister, I think, is about 5'3". I'm 5'9". My older sister's about 5'6". So, but my younger sister and I would often shop together. For me, what worked was when I was a model and I was very tall always and skinny, then nothing fit in the store. It only worked if it was couture, right? Because if the waist was narrow enough, it was too short. As I've gotten older, my body has changed, so it's not. I know how to shop better, and there are a lot more choices. But sometimes my sister and I would try to go to the same store and buy the same thing, and it would just absolutely never work. If she bought something that fit me, she would have to go to the tailor and have, like, 3 or 4 inches taken off of the back of a jacket, right, in order for it to work.
Yes.
We figured out, just don't buy the same jacket. For me, it wouldn't work. You could never make the sleeve long enough. If it was her length without being altered, it was never gonna be long enough for my arm. She is the one who over the years has made the tailor her best friend. Everything she buys pretty much is tailored. I want you to talk about getting a tailor, how you pick one and how you work with one. Before you do that, let me remind folks, this is Dreamleapers with Harriette Cole. We're going in on fashion and dressing, power dressing. And we're having this conversation with Michele Grant, who has written this fabulous new book, The Power Dressers, A Women's Guide to Professional Style. So, Michele, how do we find a tailor? How do you know if a tailor's good? How do you work with a tailor?
Absolutely. And I do cover this as well. The number one step you want to take is knowing what you want from the tailor. What are the points that you're going to need them to really do when with your items? For me, I'm very tall, almost 6 feet, 6 feet flat. And the number one thing for me is letting out hems, making sure that my shoulders are positioned correctly in jackets. The length of the jacket is jacket sleeve is what it needs to be. And so you're going to know those specific aspects that you're going to need a tailor to do regularly, pretty much with items that you purchase. You want to do your research online, find the tailor that's within your area, and then start to try them out. So go to, choose your top three. The beautiful thing now, we have reviews online. Choose your top three and then start to go to them and make sure that you can work with them. It's very important to find a tailor that understands what it is that you're looking for, the type of fit, whether you like things to be more snug, you want your blazers to be more fitted and snug, or even, pants, your pants waist might need to be taken in because you need more room in the hip area. They should start to gather the type of fit that you like, and then know how to apply that when you bring items. I do use a tailor very often. I'm at my tailor every month, sometimes depending on what I'm doing, several times a month. And so being able to work with them and communicate with them is really key. And then ensure that they are actually executing the way that you want it to. The clothes are coming out the way that you want them to. I think that's very important. And so I recommend trying multiple tailors with,
How do you
as
find
you
them,
have.
Michele? How do you find a tailor?
Definitely check online and search it within your area, and you should be able to find a ton of tailors that can provide. Department stores usually have tailors as well, but you would have to, it's based on a purchase. And if you're not making that purchase on the spot or in the location, they're usually not available to just a general public. And so you want to find a tailor. They're dry cleaners. Some of them have standalone stores, similar to how you would find, your shoe repair or handbag repair center is how I would recommend finding the tailor. And of course, using reviews. You want to hear what their experience has been like with the general public. Again, this is going to be an ongoing relationship. And so you really want to make sure that you've gotten some feedback, and recommendations are always great too. You ask around within others that in the area who are the tailors they're using and who they would like to recommend.
Excellent. You mentioned something earlier I want to go back to, especially for women who are commuting, and that bag. There that bag that brings all your stuff in it, and also the bag that you use when you're going to different events. And I have seen that both bags and shoes sometimes are where people kind of fall off on their game, because you've got the outfit together, but did you remember the right shoe? Did you remember the right bag? Is the bag that you're carrying the bag that you schlep everything in and it's worn out, it's overstuffed? Oops, I forgot my purse for my transition to evening. How important are bags? How important are shoes? And how can you plan to make sure that you have that whole look together?
They're very important. I cover them in accessories and how you bring the outfit together. It can change the entire dynamic and feel of your outfit. When we talk about practicality, that is key. we're investing in quality items. Think of this as an investment. What are you going to invest in? Something that you're going to wear, and you know you're going to wear very seldom because it doesn't really work for your lifestyle. It's not what we're hoping to achieve with our wardrobe and our overall investment in creating this authentic wardrobe. The idea is to choose items that fit into the style that you're looking for, that you can use in many different outfits. It has applicability across many different colors, and um, you're going to have the items that pop because you want to have, use color strategically. So you might have that red bag or that green bag that kind of just gives the outfit a little extra something. But inherently, you want to be able to really utilize the accessories such as handbags, shoes, jewelry, etc., across the board in many different ways.
I appreciate that, and I one thing that I started doing when I was working in an office. I mean, now I've worked for myself for many years, and so I have it in my own office. But when I was going to an office, I would make sure, especially if because there were a lot of evening functions, that I had a little accessories bag that had some evening jewelry in it. I kept a pair of evening shoes. So even if my outfit didn't change, if my shoes changed to an evening shoe and a dressier bag, suddenly it was a dressier outfit. And those are little things that could make all the difference. Also, as the work environment has become more casual, I recommend to people keep a jacket in your office, or if you don't have an office, on the back of your chair, because a jacket could dress up anything in a blink, and you can become more professional even if what you're wearing perhaps is a little bit more casual. Do you agree with that?
Yes. Oh, definitely, definitely. And I even would even add to that in maybe having a scarf, right? That you can drape over your attire if you're moving from day to evening. We're talking about our professional lives, which is pretty dynamic. What we're doing during the day can be very different from where we are in the evening. And there are client meetings, there are different dinners, things that we know we're transitioning to. How do we make that work from the beginning of the day? And so elements like scarves, blazers, cardigans definitely can help you transition to a different environment or setting that you'll be in. Same thing. I love the fact that you thought of having the evening shoe with you, and transitioning to that as well. I do think there's opportunity to even change jewelry, right? It's easy. You
Absolutely.
put it into your bag, you bring that statement necklace for dinner. Everyone is, definitely in a different mode by then. And so you want to be able to say, look, you're communicating your dynamism, and you're ready for the setting that you'll be in. And so little things like that definitely give it an opportunity to be incorporated later on into the day.
In this day and age of the smartphone and everybody taking a picture and social media and the red carpet is everywhere, I firmly believe head to toe, front to back, you better be on point because somebody's getting that photo.
Telling you, that is so true. It's so important, right? And you don't want to have the same look every time. That's the other thing, right? And so when you think about the wardrobe and building it out, find ways where you can bring in something new without committing to the full purchase, right? And how can you do
Yeah.
that? Yeah, it's important, I think,
And
nowadays.
I often, even when I was little, I was obsessed, always been obsessed with fashion, but I would write down my outfits so that I knew when I was repeating them. Now I take a
Mhm.
picture so I can see, okay, I wore this on X date. Now, we can be like Michelle Obama, who repeated her outfits in the White House, which is what more European women do. But she's like, look, I can wear this again. It's a great outfit. Why can't I? We can wear things again, but don't wear it too frequently and to
Yes.
exactly the same event in exactly the same way. That I think is important as well. So Michelle, I, I want to think about the people who are not going to want to be conservative, who like to push the trends, who
Mhm.
who maybe their style is a bit more artful or bohemian or different from whatever the classic corporate cultural look might be. What advice do you have for people who really do feel like, well, I beat my own drum, but I work in a corporate enough space that I do need to find a balance here. What advice do you have for them?
Oh, that is such a great question. And I cover that as well in being fashion forward. There is an element to being current. We don't just because we're professional and we have our professional style, we are not embracing being outdated. We want to be current. And if your style includes something that might not be typical for the office or very conservative, there are ways of incorporating it without it being inappropriate or jarring to the office space. Maybe you wear more flowing outfits and you like flowing dresses, flowing shirts, flowing tops, pants, etc. You choose colors that still fit into an office environment or the environment that you're typically in. Maybe you lean more towards neutrals because you're leaning more towards a flowy look. If you are interested in uh, bringing more color. Color blocking is still a thing. It is very energetic and it's still very fashionable. You can bring those colors into color blocking and bringing it in a way where it's not overpowering, but it still gives that extra je ne sais quoi. That book speaks to what you like and how you want to show up. I think there are elements in culture that come into this as well, and as the diversity that we bring is important, and embracing that and showing that this is okay for the office environment is not a bad thing. I think it's a good thing, and I think that we're leaning more in that direction nowadays where you shouldn't be held back from your culture and how you typically dress because you want to share your expertise in a work environment, right? There should be more room for that from a cultural perspective as well. And so we're seeing trends go in that direction. And I think it's good to embrace it and still know that you don't want to be overly distracting in a way where it's inappropriate or it can be considered disrespectful to the environment or who you're going to be working with. And you're not representing the culture and brand of the company. It could be your company, and you should have a culture and brand for your company as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, so for my business, I tell everybody who works with me, I'm a fashion girl. You got to show up looking good every day. It doesn't have to be exactly my style, but it needs to be professional style every single day. Cameras on every day. That's how I roll. But, during having worked through the pandemic and so many people didn't turn their cameras on, to me, the blessing of the pandemic in this horrible situation, we discovered technology like what we're using today so we could see each other. And I want to see
Absolutely.
people looking vibrant and healthy and sharp because that's how I grew up. You're
That's
supposed
right.
to look sharp every day, no matter where you are. That's supposed to happen.
Yes.
I think, too, developing a unique sense of style, which you write about a lot in your book, is important. And you do need to also understand, as you have written, the boundaries of wherever you are expecting that you're going to be, who is going to be there, what makes for comfort and engaging your power without being distracting, as you
Yes.
described. We only have a couple minutes left, but one of the things I want to address, I talk to a lot of people who say, I want to be authentic. I want to wear what I want to wear. I want to
Mhm.
do what I want to do. I don't want to have to follow your rules, so to speak. So, me, I realize I'm a bit old school. I think the good news is there's so many places to work that there usually is a place that is a fit for you, even if it may not be this place that you're looking at right now. But I want you to address this notion like, yes, I want to be authentic. And how do you find a fit that welcomes you? And, how hard should you push for a place to say they will accept you as you are, or you look for something that's more of a natural fit?
Yeah, this is a great question. I think I touch on it in many, different areas of my book. And it's understanding the culture, right? The company culture, the industry culture of where you're working in. You ascribe to these things when we determine what we want to be and who the professional we want to be, what area we want to work in. There are certain things that come along with that that we are ascribing to when we choose these professions. There are aspects to it that can change, yes, especially if you're in a virtual setting. You can see changes over time, but there are clear lines of delineation in each industry and company. And you touched on kind of doing the research and knowing where you want to land in that space. Technology, I've been in technology for decades, but that looks very different depending on the company that you're working for. If you are in a startup, you're going to have range. You're going to have free range, more range than you probably wanted. And so you're gonna have your plethora of ideas that you can wear, and everyone will love that because you're bringing this new innovative feel to what they're doing. But do know that that's the heart of what they're are seeking to achieve. They are seeking to be disruptors, innovators, and so you're speaking to their culture yet and still. And that is why it's so important to know what you're going into, how you're going to be expected to show up. And from a broad sense, you might be able to have some wiggle room in there to bring your authentic style to it, but know where you're going to be and know where you want to be. I talk about your aspirations because that's so important. We want to dress for where we're going to be now, right? If you know that you're targeting a particular role, a particular level within the work that you do, look at what they are doing now and start to incorporate that into your style. And if you, there will be opportunities for you to bring some authenticity into that, but do know that their dress codes and the culture of the industry and company will be a factor in your decision making.
I think that's so important. I interviewed for a job years ago at a publication that I loved. This is again in the fashion space. When I walked into the building, into the office, and I saw the receptionist, I knew that it wasn't a fit. Everyone on the floor, every woman was dressed exactly the same, and it was not a style that looked like me, that felt like me. It was a lovely uniform that wasn't my uniform. This was before I said a word, and I knew
Mhm.
that it wasn't a fit. It wasn't that I couldn't have put on those clothes, but it wasn't the right fit for me. And the message came before a word was spoken. And you talk about this in your book, that people see you usually before they hear what you have to say, whether you like it or not. It does have an impact, which is why everyone, Michele Grant's book, The Power Dressers, A Woman's Guide to Professional Style, is something that I believe has a lot of information in it that is useful, very practical, useful information in case you aren't that woman who already understands what to do. Here's someone who's spent many years cultivating style. There are a lot of great photographs of you in there, and even more really good practical information for what people can do to figure it out for themselves. So congratulations, Michele, on your new book. It's
Thank
got a
you.
lot of great info. Appreciate all the hard work that it took for you to make it happen, and good luck to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Harriet, for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you, all of you, Dreamleapers audience. I appreciate being with you today. Thank you for being here. And until next time, have a great day and make it count.